dreamt of becoming a freelancer? Very innovative in your thoughts, but you don't know how to pen them down? This session is going to solve that problem. What we are going to learn today is all about article writing. And what all you shall get in this session is, what are articles? So we are all aware, we read articles in newspapers, magazines, we come across so many of them. But what is the systematic approach to it? So you get the definition, you shall know the guidelines, the opening lines. This is how you should do it. You'll get good samples of the same, the format, the marking scheme. Well, when you are writing this in an exam paper, in your answer sheets, you definitely have a certain marking scheme allotted. So you have to work according to that. You will have solved samples and you will also have exercises to solve. Now, if I talk about just a definition which we always look for. So what are articles? It is a piece of writing included with others in a newspaper, magazine, or other publication. An article about middle-aged executives. Is it very clear to you? Not to me at least. I would want something more, a very sorted type of one, and here it is. Very simple. Very lucid in your language which you can really comprehend. An article should be like a conversation with the reader. So basically, I am the writer, I have written the article, but when I am writing, I am in the shoes of a reader, right? I am literally talking to the reader. It is an expression of one's thought on an issue or a subject logically and coherently written in meaningful paragraphs. Now, this is an expression of one's thought. You have thought of something. There are thoughts in your mind. There are multiple thoughts in your mind. What you have to do is, you have to logically and coherently, as in it should be in a very logical consistency. You know that there should be a logical approach to it. There should be a sequence to it. And it should be done in meaningful paragraphs. An article writing needs good research skills, creativity, good vocabulary, good knowledge of the subject, and skill to organize the ideas. You know, so often we have many ideas in our head, but the problem is we don't know how to actually put it in a certain sequence. We don't know how to sort it out. They are all, mingled together, but how do you actually do it in a sequence is what we miss quite a few times. So this is what article writing is all about. You are going to master all these skills. Now, what are the guidelines? Whenever you are doing a certain thing, especially a creative writing, you have to follow certain guidelines. Make sure you do them. Give a title that catches the attention of the reader. Quite often when we go through the newspapers or a magazine, we don't read every article that we come across. Where do we stop? Where do our eyes stop? Where we find the title very catchy. It immediately draws your attention and we feel, oh, it's worth a read. So then we go through that article. So if you want your article to be read by everybody, you have to make sure that the title is a very catchy one, a very crisp one, a very suitable one. That's where people will stop to read your article. Begin with a striking opening sentence which addresses the readers and gets them interested in the topic. Now, your opening line. Now, your first step is done. You have given it a very beautiful, a very suitable title, and then the opening sentence. Your opening sentence again has to be something very suitable to what you are going to write, right? It should draw the attention of the reader. The text can be written using subheadings. You can also have subheadings to it. It helps to bring clarity to the paragraphs. You have to make sure that your each paragraph is depicting a particular concept. Present a strong argument for your ideas, supporting it with evidences or elaboration. Whenever you are giving a paragraph, you are giving it one concept, one thought, and on that thought you have to give evidences or you have to elaborate. You have to work on that one concept. So every paragraph carries one concept, one idea. What else do you have to do? You have to use linking devices. You know, so often we come across when we check our answer sheets, and all that I can find is and this and this and this. That's the only linking device generally all students use, which is so very wrong. You have n number of them. You have so many of them which you can use in your creative writing and make it more sophisticated. Students, when you're using different words, the level of your creative writing actually rises up, and which helps you to score good marks. If you look at it marks wise, definitely, but also these things, if you learn right now, if you start using it in your creative writing, automatically it will also come on your tongue. This will also help you communicate better. So you see, it has a lasting effect. You don't have to just get restricted to marks. It adds to your personality. Why? Because you tend to communicate better. So this is very good to use, and make sure you do it. So use linking devices like however, therefore, although, even though, in order to. They're used obviously as per the requirement to make the composition appear a whole. It will give a proper touch once you use these linking devices. What else can you do? Introduce a new point at the beginning of each paragraph that follows to strengthen your ideas. You have to give a new point at the beginning. Like I already mentioned, you have to have a concept for every paragraph. So there should be no repetition. You have to make sure that it is logically sequenced. It is in a proper sequence. Develop your ideas as much as you can to make them interesting and substantial. So when you are giving your ideas, when you are developing your ideas based on the topic that you are writing your article for, they should be interesting. They should be efficient. They should be important. Remember, when we are doing these article writings in, like, we are using 100 to 150 words. Now within that word limit, you have to make sure you don't cross that limit. So within that word limit, you have to make sure that you have written it all. You have covered it 360 degrees, whatever the topic. Conclude with your strongest point. Very important. So if you see, right from the title till the conclusion, you have to make sure that everything is so beautifully woven. Perhaps give the reader something to think about, either by asking another question or by asking to act upon. We will see that in the examples which you're going to see ahead. So you have to make sure that you leave the reader thinking upon something. You leave a question for him or her, or you ask them to act upon something that you have mentioned. Use passive voice, right? We all know what is passive voice. We will not say, I read the book. We will say, the book was read by me. So that's your passive voice. You have to keep using the passive voice. Humor, emotive language, rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are those which are very effective. You know, you may not get an answer to it, but yes, they're definitely effective to put. Real life or made up examples to provide a specific effect. Now this is very important. When you are writing some idea, please connect it, please show it with some kind of examples. You can connect it real life. Now when we do it for students, we connect it with their real life situations. Even if you're thinking something different, you can actually give it a connect if you talk of practical questions. Made up examples, you can definitely make them up as long as your idea has been transferred, as long as your thought has been transferred. So never mind, even if you have to make up some example, Nobody is going to come and check it through. But what will happen is the job will be done. Use semi-formal or conversational tone. Please make it interesting. You are not giving an essay, you are not giving something which is very boring to read. Please, if you have a conversational tone, it will be very effective. You know, it will be very interesting to go through. So don't be on a very formal note. Now, which are the 5 ways to draw your reader's attention? Now, like I said, you have to make sure, you want to make sure that many people read your article. So what all things can you do throughout that so that everyone really catches up with your article? First, start with a quote. Very important. When you start with a quote, it makes it very interesting. Whenever a person is reading, now for example, you put yourself in the shoes of a reader. When you are writing your article, so keep asking yourself, if I was a reader, would I have enjoyed this? Yes. If the answer is yes, continue. If not, give it a thought and change it. Jump into the action. Whatever your topic is, according to that, jump into the action. Use a startling statistic. Now it happens, you tend to mention that out of 10, so many people did this. You have to give a certain statistics to it. That actually makes the reader think, is it so? Is this the case? It actually gets into him. Find a compelling anecdote. Anecdote is something of your short experience. When you give that experience of yours, a very short thing where you tell that was your experience, it will definitely leave the reader interested. He would get more curious about the fact. Use a specific language. Obviously, you will stay, if you're there on that passive note, if you are there with all your things connected, it will definitely have a very good impact on the reader. Now, as students, you need to remember that you have to follow a particular format. If you don't, your marks are deducted. So please play very wise here and do follow the format. What is the format? The initial is you have a heading or a title. We are all aware. Now, the very next line, the byline, we have to say by name of the author. So if you are there, so XYZ, whatever your name, by and your name. Then you have the body, right? You have the body which includes the first paragraph, the second and the third paragraph. You can have 3 paras to it, and the conclusion. In a newspaper, remember again, if you are the reader and if you are reading something, how much time do you think you would want to give one particular article? It's not that people are only going to read your article. They have the entire newspaper to glance through. So keep them very short and crisp. And as it is, we have our word limit of 100 to 150 words. So we have to make sure we stay within that limit. So do you see the format? I'll show you the marking scheme ahead and you will know the format, how many marks it carries. So you will know how to actually go about. Now, how should your opening lines be? We spoke of the title, now it's turn for the opening lines. Keep your first sentence short. Like we said, begin with a quote. So obviously you have a very short sentence in the beginning. Say something unusual. Don't begin with that typical line and then it's very boring. It won't even interest you to read any further. So when you talk of something very unusual, the reader is glued to it. He's totally absorbed. He starts getting more curious to read your article. Don't repeat the title. So whatever you have written as the title, and if you want to say something connected to it, don't repeat the title. You can change your wordings. Keep the introduction brief, very, very brief. You don't have to go about giving a very long lecture to it. No. Use the word you at least once. So it's basically you are addressing the reader. So whenever leave something for the reader also. Let him feel that he's equally involved in it. You have involved the reader. Then dedicate 1 or 2 sentences to articulating what the article covers. 1 or 2 sentences right on top. You have to just mention that what is your article actually talking about, in which direction are you going to take the reader. Dedicate 1 or 2 sentences to explaining why the article is important. You have to also dedicate that. You have to write 1 or 2 lines and mention that if you have given this article, what is the importance of that article. Refer to a concern or problem your readers might have. There will be certain problems, there might be certain issues that the readers are facing, so you can address accordingly. But be careful telling stories. When you are talking of any kind of small anecdotes or stories, please be a little careful. Don't give it a very sensitive approach that the reader does not like. Use statistics or a fact to convey the importance. Like I already mentioned, if you give a certain statistics, the reader will feel, oh my God, is this the case? So he will definitely get involved. Now, I told you already, as students, you have to follow a certain pattern. Now, this is the marking scheme. Word limit, we said 150 words it has to be. The word format, that's 1 mark it carries for the heading and the writer's name. The right on top, the title, which is followed by the byline. So that carries 1 mark. Your content carries 4 marks. The whole body, the whole first, second, third para, they carry 4 marks. And your expression carries 3 marks. What is the expression all about? Grammatical accuracy, appropriate words, spellings, coherence, and relevance of ideas and style. Now, when you are writing an article, you have to make sure that all this is well taken care of. Grammatically, you have to be correct. If you are talking of something that has already happened, definitely you will use the past tense. But before that something, then it will also be past perfect, right? So you have to take care of it on the grammatical ground. Appropriate words, your words should be appropriate according to the article that you are writing. Spellings, obviously. Coherence and relevance. Coherence is, like I told you, it's the logical sequence. You should not go haywire. So if it's 1 first, it's 2 second, it's 3 third, that's how you will go. You will not go 2 3 1 or 3 1 2. Your ideas have to be in sequence, in the particular sequence. Relevance of ideas and style. Whatever you are putting up, it should be relevant according to the topic. It should not go off track. You have to make sure. Right? So this is the marking scheme we have to follow. Now, this is an example which I would like to give you. This is a solved example. So when you go through it, you will actually get an idea how you should be writing the article. Due to growing materialism, there is a shift in the values of youngsters. They continue pestering their parents for items like mobile phone, digital camera, bike, etc. for personal use, even though there is no genuine need for these gadgets. Taking help from the MCB unit, children write an article in about 120 words, expressing your views on the same. You are Sunil or Swati. Now you are one of them. If you're a boy, obviously Sunil, and if it's a girl, Swati. Now you are, remember, the buy has been given to you. Please remember one thing very, very clearly. Just get it into your head whenever you are doing a creative writing during exams. For God's sake, make sure that you read it not once, not twice, but thrice. And how will you go about? Initially, you will read the question twice. Remember that. And the third, when will you do? When you have started writing your article, in the middle, just in case you feel you are getting off track, please go back to the question and read it. I'm telling you, it really works magic. So whenever you are doing creative writing, please keep this approach. Read your question twice initially, then you start framing it. You make your skeleton and you frame it, and then the third you read in between again to make sure, to ensure that you are on track, you haven't got off track. Yes, so this is very, very, very important. Now, how was this solved? Do you see this? The deteriorating values. Now, what was the question? Your question was based on the values of youngsters. Now, here they are telling you they don't even need the gadgets, and yet they are asking their parents for it. So these children, they put their they have put their article. So what is the catch? It's so beautifully given, the deteriorating values. Now, this is something any parent would want to read. In fact, we as youngsters also would want to do that. So, the byline by Swati. The growing materialism in the society is leaving a profound impact on the younger generation. Look at the ideas, look at the the grammatical accuracy, look at the vocabulary. Everything that we spoke of has been taken care of here. So please read it as give it a technical look. Yeah. So the growing materialism in the society is leaving a profound impact on the younger generation. They are growing up in an environment which creates a desire to acquire all that is in their capacity. It has changed children's perspective towards life. For them, materialism is happiness. They pester their parents to fulfill their demands for gadgets, etc., even though there is no genuine need for the same. Children want these in order to impress their friends. We all know these days what is the case. It's all about peer pressure. It's all about, if he has it, why can't I? Materialism makes us greedy. We try to show off what we have and are embarrassed if we do not have something that others possess. The world has become a place for competition where everyone aims to be ahead of other. Youngsters need to understand that money does not bring happiness. You see how intense this article is? It is so beautifully written. It is more important to be content. We need to have values, friends, relations, and above, at our families, love and support to lead a happy life. Now, do you see how beautifully it is concluded? This is something, like we said, we need to either give them a thought to ponder upon, to think upon, or we give them something to act upon. So this is what we have given them. That's how we have concluded. You also have another one. A teacher motivates and inspires her students. Write an article in about 120 to 150 words talking about the role and importance of teachers in our lives. Now, obviously, teachers are extremely important. They are your second gurus. Who is your first guru? Yes, your mother. Now, the importance of teachers in our life. In our culture, teachers enjoy the same status as parents and gods. It is not surprising though. The teacher is the person who leads us from ignorance to knowledge. They shape our lives and future. They help us to distinguish right from wrong. They show us the right path that leads us to success and happiness. We are talking about teachers. You see, now we are covering that one content we want to talk about. Now, this was the thing what teachers are. Now, look at the second paragraph. It's giving you another concept. There would be utter chaos and confusion if there were no teachers. Man, after all, is an animal. It is the teacher who transforms that animal into a responsible and socially committed person. If there were no teachers, would human beings have achieved the progress they made? You think that would have been possible? The answer is an emphatic no. If there were no teachers, we would still be behaving like animals with no sense of right and wrong. Now, look at it technically. This paragraph is totally focusing on if there were no teachers. What is the concluding part of it? Teachers enter our lives during our formative years. The values and the knowledge that we gain from them therefore remain imprinted on our mind. While our parents nurture us physically and emotionally, our teachers nourish us intellectually. They enable us to realize our true calling in life. Without them, it is impossible to achieve success in life. We owe them all that we achieve in life. The sooner we realize this, the better. Now you are telling the reader to do something. You better implement all this. The faster you do it, the better. So do you see the technical approach that has been taken care of? We have to make sure that we follow them all. Now, I leave you with 2 questions for you to practice. Please do it on the same grounds like you just saw. You also know now the proper format, how to do it. In recent times, there is perceived an increasing generation gap between parents and children. Write an article in about 100 to 120 words. You may take help from the clues given. Clues have been provided to you. Based on the clues, please make sure that the clues are used. Clues being used, I don't mean that you have to use them word by word, but yes, you have to take the concept that has been given to you. So disparity in view, lifestyle, values, leading to generation gap, youth, late night parties, and philosophy of carefree life, old age, traditional values of respecting elders being eroded. Now this is what you have to talk about, the increasing generation gap. Now this is for you to solve. Better make sure you take care of all the technicality. Another one for you to practice. Write an article in about 150 words for your school magazine on the topic, where should the poor go? It's a very beautiful topic. We see so many poor people around us. Where should they ultimately go? You may take help from the clues given below. Again, clues are there for you. Blamed for every ill of society. Trapped in a vicious circle with no freedom from discrimination. Hatred and rejection from the so-called rich. Cursed with poverty, disease, dirt, crime, and unhappiness. Now this is telling you all about the poor people. Yeah, how you are going to frame, how you are going to begin, how are you going to have your 3 paragraphs with a beautiful conclusion is totally on you now. When you are doing this, make sure that everything that has been taught to you right now has been taken care of. Yes, the more you follow it, the more marks you score. But if you don't give it, it is very oftenly found that children tend to take creative writing as a burden, as a tension. Remember, as you go further, you will have to do still longer ones. You will have to write 25 marks essays and stuff. So if you don't start creating, cultivating your habit, basically it must have started maybe from grade 5 itself. But if you don't do it still further now, you will have problems ahead. So don't do that. Please don't avoid and ignore such things. You can always edit a bad page. If you have written something wrongly, it can be edited. But what will you do? You can't edit a blank page. What will you do if your page is blank? If you have written nothing on it, what will you edit? So don't do that. Make sure you keep attempting, you keep trying, and I'm sure you will achieve success. Yes, keep watching and keep learning.